Hey there, Dingo Stu here. Today's video is about finally going for our first cruise and is proudly sponsored by marineengine.com. There are a few jobs to do before we could get going, so let's start with all those electrical gremlins we were having last week. One thing I didn't show in this video was sorting out that issue with the negative charge rate, which somewhat predictably turned out to be me having the negative lead from the alternator on the wrong side of the smart shunt. So obviously I wasn't such a smart shunt, but you know, that solved it straight away. In my mind I had it on the starting bank, but it turned out it was actually on the house bank, so it was coming the wrong way through the shunt. Alright, after that I got into the problem of the alternator not being excited properly to charge at idle.
Okay, I've quickly thrown a resistor in parallel with our alternator light, and the light's much brighter now too. So let's fire it up and see if it goes out at a lower RPM. If it does go out, it's because we're getting more current to the field windings on the alternator and, you know, exciting it with more current, so it should work better. Let me think quickly. Bucket on my exhaust, better take that off. The new exhaust caps arrived, so I'll upgrade that later, but for now we've got that. Seacocks are open. That went straight out at idle. That's never happened before, so I think we've solved that problem. Thank you for that tip. Oil pressure gauge is working. Water temperature will come up. Our tacho's working. Pretty much everything's good to go. The resistance on the switches, hang on, I'll turn this engine off. The resistance on these switches was because I was using them wrong. So viewers made lots of great suggestions on how to fix these things. These switches I actually sort of bought bulk and they didn't come with any OEM packaging, so I was really kind of flying a bit blind. My bad once again for not doing any research, thinking, oh, it's a switch, how hard can it be? Well, it turns out you need to switch across these two terminals. It's important which way they go, because if you swap those, the light's on when the switch is off. Then the top here is a separate ground for the LED only. And because I was using that, I was getting a really high resistance, hence the voltage drop across these switches. Now, voltage drop is a mathematically known thing that's directly proportional to the ratios of resistance. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, which maybe two of you might be, I'll put a link in the description to a video I did years ago on voltage drop. Also got some of this heat shield on the wiring that goes across the top of the exhaust manifold now. Jubbly jubbly. Okay, let's see if we can slide this prop shaft backwards and forwards at all anymore. Let's back this stern gland off, take a bit of pressure off of the prop shaft. Can at least rotate it by hand now, that's good. Alright, if I rotate it and push it down, it goes a bit. So let me get a pry bar in here and see how far away I can push it. Can't find the big one, but we'll see how we go with this. Oh, look at that. Nice. That's a big difference. Okay, now let's get this Polyflex coupling off, so we can have a shot at our middle on middle alignment. Alright. Giving it a bit of a twist meant I could do it by hand, but it's hard work, so let's try the clamp now. Alright, we've got our dial gauge set up the best I can. We've not got a lot of clearance here, unfortunately, on the gearbox, but I I think it'll give us an idea what's going on. It does have a magnet that can be activated, which is now activated, but I'm going to put some cable ties around just to give it some extra security. So nice to have this prop shaft moving now so you can actually do an alignment. Did the best I could before with the static prop shaft. This is going to be loads more accurate. The problem I was having then is as I was rotating it, the prop shaft was actually sliding back down the tube, bringing the needle away from the gearbox flange. It's essentially reading 0, so as we come this way, the needle's going into the negative. Alright, what you can see here is as I rotate the needle away, it's turning counterclockwise, which means the needle's extending. So the gearbox is too far this way. I'll wind these jack screws in until they're lightly contacting the base of the engine mounts, and then we'll just give them all 4 of them on this side. Number of turns, say like a quarter turn in to start with, and then we'll see how we go. If I put a straight edge across here, you can see there's a gap with the green, and the green's actually a larger diameter. If we come down here, hopefully this fits, you can see there's a gap under the grey, so the engine's way too low. This means I'm going to go around to all the engine mounts and lift them uniformly up, half a turn each, and then we'll go from there and double check, etc, etc. Alright, looks much better both up and down and fore and aft by the straight edge now. So that's heaps better. It was doing practically laps of the dial before. Now it hasn't deflected. Oh, it's come off the edge there now. What I really needed to have organised was a piece of PVC pipe that I could cut to length, split in half and put over the prop shaft, which would stop it being able to slide back because it hit against here and then hit against here. Okay, I split a piece of PVC pipe and put it over the prop shaft, which will stop it sliding out, which should keep the needle on the flange. So that's 10,000ths further in, which means we might still need to push the engine a little bit to the port side. Let's go the other way. Alright, engine still needs to go towards the port side. It's not much though, so just go a quarter turn on all of them. Looks like it might have gone a little bit too far, if anything. Now if I have, I'll go into the positive on the other side, so let's test that. Okay, looks like it came a bit too far, so I'm going to push it back this way. About half the amount I adjusted it last time. That's pretty close. I think I'm going to call that done. I'm just bouncing either side of 0 at the moment. Alright. So cool, you know, that's pretty good. tight. There's definitely less drag here. I'm going to push the front of the motor across a little bit, close this gap up, and then I think we're close to done. I reckon we put that flange back on and see how it goes. So far so good, they're all starting really easily, which is great. Oh look, I do have a primary fuel filter. Just happens to be the second fuel filter in the line once I got the others installed, but that's nice. This is pretty funny. I'm just tightening these bolts up, and as soon as they get to a certain amount of torque, the prop shaft starts rotating and brings it round to the next one. That's kind of funny and handy. Alright, I just put a bit of extra oil in the gearbox. I've been checking it before, but it was once again very clear, so I've sort of wiped it, then just rolled the dipstick onto a rag so I could see where it was up to. Took a little bit more, I think purely because it's filled, but obviously when the gearbox place rebuilt it, they don't know the volume of the lines to the oil cooler and that kind of thing, and that's obviously where the extra oil has gone, so it's topped up now as well. Got forward, got reverse, got rudder. The current's running quite strong at the moment, so we'll just go ahead on the mooring line. I'll duck outside, drop the mooring, and we're off. Rudder feels good still. Pressure's dropped a little bit since the temperatures come up. Not sure how accurate the gauge is and how much of an issue that is. Climbs with RPM. Even with our better engine alignment, I could definitely still see a vibration where the gearbox was actually flexing on the mounting plate on the back of the engine. And, you know, obviously that's not ideal. It'll fatigue and cause all sorts of issues down the track. As a result, I gave my mate Mick at Coast Marine a call, and he said, yeah, bring it round, we'll check it out for you. So instead of heading back to the island, I just pushed on up to the gut to drop the boat off with him. It's amazing how often you can go somewhere by road and suddenly by water you're like, where is it? Mick's the local Tohatsu dealer where I got the Tohatsu for Red Dwarf, and also Honda, so Honda and Tohatsu, so helped me with the parts for the green machine and the new engine for Red Dwarf, so perfect combination. It's funny, now we've gone for the run, it all sort of feels a bit smoother, to be honest with you, which makes perfect sense. Everything bends in, the cutlass bearing is brand new. I think I've just worked on this for so long, you know, to the point of almost exhaustion. The thought of doing any damage makes me think, you know, you kind of look out to talk to someone who will give you some sense of confidence. and Mick's always sort of been that guy when it comes to marine stuff, so we'll see what he says when we get there. We may have no problem at all, but I'd rather not take any risks. I'm pretty sure that's the office there, so I think we'll see a slipway just past these boats. But then there's after that is a second area where he said the working berths are, so we'll see a slipway soon, maybe, maybe not. So it's nice to know it's in the hands of someone I trust a lot, and wait for his call and we'll see where we're at. Renko's home for a little while. We'll take Red Dwarf back to the island. I wasn't quite planning to have our first journey go to a mechanical workshop, but you know, better safe than sorry. That's all there is to it.
Well, we made it. We got from the mooring to Brooklyn without any real issues. Obviously the vibration needs fixing. Having never done one of these alignments, I kind of get it in principle, but I just want Coast Marine to have a look at it and just make sure it's 100%. Another issue, even though the gearbox wasn't getting hot, it was definitely losing drive, particularly at one point where I missed the marina and turned around, and at that point I had no drive for a little while. So I'd say that cooling system for the gearbox is bleeding through, and I just need to keep adding more oil to get that back up to scratch again. So that was a bit of an issue, but hopefully something that's very simply solved. So we'll wait, probably hear from Mick in a few days, and then we'll go and pick the boat, take it back. A few big jobs to do still. I've got to get the Sav winch anchor winch installed and get our Rockner anchor mounted up in a new bow roller on the bow. Then I also need to build the awning that I can put all the solar cells on, so we'll have shade and the full complement of solar cells as well. I've got to build the gate, got to do all sorts of things. But when we get it back, at least we'll be able to use the boat as well as work on these extra, you know, nice to have features. So I've got to say a huge thanks to everyone who helped get from where we were 18 months ago to here, whether it's just great advice in comments, marineengine.com is the sponsor, people on Patreon, or people just donating through PayPal. It's all just helped enormously. We wouldn't have got here otherwise, so I can't thank you all enough. All right, well, take care, and I'll catch you in a few days' time. See ya. Oi, back down. Okay, here's the test. If you're happy the boat's running, eat from the left hand. If you're really happy it's running, eat from the right hand, okay? Go. Only happy, not really happy. All right. Thank you for celebrating with me. Look, over there. You goose.